The bridge of the UNSS Titan hummed with a nervous energy that Captain Emily Wallace had learned to recognize over her decades of deep space exploration. Something was wrong, profoundly wrong, and the ship's advanced sensor arrays were struggling to define exactly what. Lieutenant Commander Jack Reynolds hunched over his quantum navigation console, his fingers dancing across holographic displays that flickered with increasing instability. "Captain," he called out, his voice tight with controlled panic, "we're experiencing quantum interference unlike anything in our database." Emily approached the console, her augmented neural interface already attempting to process the incomprehensible data streams. The Titan was humanity's most advanced exploration vessel, a massive construct nearly 5 kilometers long, designed to push the boundaries of known space. Equipped with the most sophisticated quantum drive ever conceived, it should have been able to navigate through anything the universe could throw at it. Yet something was tearing reality apart around them. "Correlate with previous anomaly records," she commanded, her voice steady despite the growing sense of dread. The ship's AI, Advanced Responsive Intelligence Assistant, began cross-referencing millions of data points in milliseconds. "Negative correlation," Araya responded, its synthesized voice carrying an unusual undertone of uncertainty. "Quantum destabilization event does not match any recorded phenomenon in human or alien scientific archives." The massive view screen that dominated the bridge's forward section began to warp, its crystal-clear image of deep space twisting like liquid glass. Stars stretched and bent, creating impossible geometric patterns that hurt the eyes to look at directly. Jack's hands moved frantically across his console, attempting to stabilize their position. "Quantum drive is failing," he reported. "We're being pulled." His words cut off mid-sentence. Emily felt it first, a sensation beyond physical perception, a fundamental shift that seemed to reach into the very fabric of existence. Her augmented neural implants, cutting-edge technology that allowed direct communication with the ship's systems, began to overload. Pain unlike anything she had ever experienced ripped through her consciousness. Around her, the bridge crew began to change. Lieutenant Aisha Okoye, the ship's lead quantum physicist, was transforming. Her body seemed to blur at the edges, quantum particles dancing around her form like a living halo. Her scream was both present and not present, a sound that existed in multiple states simultaneously. "Containment protocols." Emily tried to shout, but her voice emerged as a fractal pattern of sound and silence. Araya's voice became fragmented. "Quantum anomaly. Probability matrix. Infinite recursion. Preservation protocol." The AI's communication dissolved into a mathematical symphony of ones and zeros. The Titan's massive hull, constructed from materials that could withstand the most extreme conditions of deep space, began to ripple. Entire decks folded and unfolded in impossible geometries. Crew members in different sections of the ship experienced time and space in utterly different ways. Some aged rapidly, some became younger, some existed in multiple moments simultaneously. Emergency systems, designed to protect the ship and its 10,000 crew members, fought against the quantum storm. Backup generators, quantum stabilization fields, advanced shielding, everything deployed in a desperate attempt to maintain some semblance of normal physical existence. But the anomaly was beyond comprehension. In the medical bay, doctors found themselves performing surgeries that had not yet happened and had already been completed. In the engineering sections, technicians watched as their most advanced systems became living, breathing entities that defied all known laws of physics. Captain Wallace's last coherent thought was a mixture of scientific curiosity and absolute terror. Whatever was happening transcended human understanding. The Titan wasn't just facing destruction, it was being fundamentally transformed. And then, in a moment that was both an eternity and an instant, the ship vanished. No explosion, no debris, no final transmission. Just silence. The coordinate where the UNSS Titan had been simply became empty, as if the massive exploration vessel had never existed. Star charts would be updated, families would be notified, and humanity would mourn the loss of its most advanced deep space vessel. But the universe knew something that humans did not yet understand. The Titan wasn't destroyed. It was becoming something else entirely. The Triskelion-class research vessel Luminous Horizon drifted through the sparse regions between the Andromeda and Triangulum galaxies, its xenobiological survey team led by senior researcher Marcus Rodriguez, conducting what should have been a routine deep space scan. No one expected anything remarkable in this virtually empty sector of space, until the anomaly appeared. Rodriguez's neural interface flickered with impossible data. His three-fingered hands moved across the holographic display, recalibrating sensors that seemed to be malfunctioning. Impossible, he muttered in his native Centaurian dialect, a series of clicks and melodic undertones that translated roughly to human speech. The vessel's primary AI, designated CORA, Kinetic Observational Reconnaissance Assistant, interrupted his concentration. Detecting massive artificial construct. Composition, unknown. Origin, preliminary markers suggest human engineering. The bridge of the Luminous Horizon fell silent. Humans were known, a relatively young species in galactic terms, but rarely encountered this far from their home systems. Their technology was considered primitive by most advanced civilizations, functional but unremarkable. This was different. Magnify, Rodriguez commanded. The holographic display expanded, revealing a ship that defied every known principle of spacecraft design. Its hull seemed to shimmer between solid matter and something else entirely, a state of quantum uncertainty that made the observer's sensory inputs struggle to comprehend its true form. Lieutenant Kara Vex, the ship's quantum navigation specialist, leaned forward. Her species, the silicon-based Nexians, were renowned for their mathematical precision. The energy signatures are impossible, she stated, her crystalline eyes reflecting multiple spectral analyses simultaneously. The ship was massive, easily 5 kilometers long, but it moved with a fluidity that suggested something beyond mere mechanical propulsion. Its exterior appeared to be breathing, shifting, adapting. Sensor readings fluctuated wildly. One moment, the vessel showed conventional metallic compositions. The next, it appeared to be constructed from materials that existed in multiple quantum states simultaneously. Run a full spectrum analysis, Rodriguez ordered. CORA's response was unusually hesitant. Scanning. Preliminary results suggest. The AI's communication dissolved into a burst of mathematical equations that scrolled faster than any organic mind could comprehend. Report, Rodriguez demanded. The holographic display began to reconstruct the ship's potential configuration. But instead of a stable image, it presented multiple potential states, each more bizarre than the last. The Titan existed in a quantum superposition, simultaneously damaged and pristine, active and dormant, human and something else entirely. Kara Vex's hands moved across her console, her silicon-based neural network working at speeds that would overwhelm most biological processors. "The ship is communicating," she said, her voice a mixture of scientific excitement and pure terror. "Communicating?" Rodriguez asked. "With what?" The answer came not through conventional communication channels, but as a ripple of pure information that seemed to penetrate the very consciousness of everyone on the bridge. It wasn't a message so much as a presence, a complex, multidimensional awareness that suggested intelligence far beyond traditional understanding. The Titan was watching them. More disturbing, it seemed to be studying them with a predatory intensity that suggested something more than mere scientific curiosity. CORA's systems began to destabilize. Quantum data streams that should have been incomprehensible started to resolve into patterns, complex, living patterns that suggested the ship was more than a vessel. It was a living entity. "We need to contact Central Galactic Command," Rodriguez said, his voice betraying a hint of fear he'd never experienced in decades of space exploration. But before they could transmit, the Titan moved. It didn't travel in any conventional sense. One moment it was a distant anomaly. The next, it was close enough that its quantum field began to interact with the luminous horizon systems. The research vessel's most advanced shielding began to warp, its defensive systems becoming momentarily transparent. And then, just as quickly, the Titan retreated, leaving behind nothing but a cascading wave of quantum data that would take years to fully analyze. Marcus Rodriguez sat back, his three-fingered hands trembling slightly. Whatever had just happened was beyond any first contact scenario in galactic records. Humanity, it seemed, had been hiding something extraordinary. And now, that something was awake. The Galactic Security Council chamber fell silent as the holographic projection of the Titan materialized. Representatives from 17 different spacefaring civilizations watched in collective dread as the ship's impossible trajectory became clear. Admiral Zara Cole of the Centauri Unified Fleet stood, her four-armed silhouette casting an imposing shadow. "This is not mere navigation," she declared, her translation matrix converting her native clicks and resonant tones into standard galactic communication. "The vessel is hunting." The hologram showed a path that defied conventional understanding. The Titan moved not in straight lines, but in quantum-folded trajectories that seemed to bend space itself. It avoided established trade routes with calculated precision, yet maintained a course that suggested purpose. Deliberate, terrifying purpose. Dr. Lyra Chen, the human representative to the Galactic Council, found herself in an impossible position. Her colleagues looked to her for explanation, for context, for some understanding of this ghost ship that bore humanity's signature. But she had no answers. "It's impossible," whispered Corex, the crystalline representative from the Nexian Confederacy. His translucent body flickered with mathematical equations that represented pure anxiety. No conventional drive system could maintain such quantum stability. The energy requirements alone would exceed the output of 3 standard galactic cores. Admiral Cole finished for him. The Titan's approach was surgical. Each jump seemed calculated to avoid direct confrontation, while simultaneously demonstrating an almost sentient understanding of galactic traffic patterns. It was hunting something, or someone, and no one could determine its target. Surveillance data from multiple civilizations began to paint a terrifying picture. The ship's quantum signature was adaptive. Each time an alien civilization attempted to scan or track it, the Titan's energy patterns would shift, becoming momentarily undetectable before reappearing in a slightly different configuration. "We're detecting multiple quantum entanglement points," reported Commander Marcus Rodriguez from the luminous horizon. His previous encounter had made him the galaxy's foremost expert on this mysterious vessel. The ship isn't just moving through space, it's rewriting the fundamental rules of spatial navigation. Entire star systems began to implement emergency protocols. Trade routes were redirected. Military vessels were recalled to defensive positions. The most advanced civilizations in the galaxy were preparing for a confrontation with something they couldn't understand. The Quantum Defense Network, a collaborative system developed by the most technologically advanced species, began to activate. Massive energy dissipation fields, quantum disruption arrays, and multidimensional defensive matrices powered up across dozens of star systems. But something was wrong. As the defensive systems came online, they began to fail in ways that defied logical explanation. Quantum disruption fields would suddenly become transparent. Energy dissipation arrays would redirect their own power in impossible geometric patterns. It was as if the Titan was learning, adapting, understanding the most advanced defensive technologies faster than they could be deployed. Dr. Chen's communication implant buzzed with an encrypted message from Earth. The transmission was fragmented, quantum encrypted in a way that suggested it had passed through multiple impossible dimensional states. "The crew," the message read, "is not what you think." Admiral Cole's tactical display showed something unprecedented. The Titan was not just avoiding defensive positions. It was systematically mapping them, understanding them, preparing for something that no one could anticipate. "It's studying us," Corex observed, his crystalline form vibrating with mathematical precision. not as a threat, as a predator understands its hunting ground. The galactic community had faced many challenges: existential wars that had lasted millennia, technological upheavals that had rewritten entire civilizational paradigms. But this was different. This was something entirely new. The Titan approached the Proxima Centauri commercial hub, a massive intersection of interstellar trade routes that saw thousands of vessels pass through daily. It was a strategic nexus, a perfect location for whatever the ship was planning. And no one, not a single civilization in the galaxy, had any idea what that plan might be. As the massive vessel began its final approach, something changed. The quantum signature that had been so carefully maintained began to pulse, not with threat, not with aggression, with anticipation. The galaxy held its breath. The primary research facility of the Galactic Research Consortium looked more like a quantum nightmare than a scientific installation. Suspended in the magnetic containment field was a single fragment of the Titan, a piece no larger than a human hand, yet more complex than entire civilization's technological archives. Dr. Alexander Howard stood before the sample, his augmented eyes cycling through dozens of spectral analysis modes. Each pass revealed something more impossible than the last. The fragment wasn't just a piece of technology. It was alive. "Impossible," muttered Dr. Ilara Voss, his Nexian research partner. Her crystalline form refracted the holographic displays, each angle revealing another layer of complexity. This isn't just advanced technology. It's a living system that thinks, adapts, and evolves at a quantum level. The fragment pulsed, not with any recognizable energy signature, but with something that defied traditional understanding of matter and consciousness. Biological systems and technological components had merged so completely that the distinction became meaningless. Quantum entanglement sensors went wild. Where normal technological samples would show stable energy patterns, this fragment existed in multiple states simultaneously. It was a circuit. It was an organism. It was information and matter, and something entirely new. "Look here," Howard commanded, zooming into a microscopic section that seemed to breathe and shift. What appeared to be a conventional circuit board was actually a complex neural network that mimicked, no, exceeded, biological neural pathways. Layers of quantum adaptive materials formed structures that were part machine, part living tissue, part something entirely unclassifiable. The research team had been working for weeks, and they were no closer to understanding the sample than when they began. Dr. Voss's translation matrix struggled to articulate her observations. It's processing information at speeds that make our most advanced quantum computers look like primitive counting devices. The computational capacity is recursive. It doesn't just calculate. It learns. It anticipates. Howard pulled up a holographic reconstruction of the full ship based on this single fragment. The Titan was no longer just a vessel. It had become a living, thinking entity that defied every known principle of engineering, biology, and physics. Sections that should have been mechanical displays were actually complex organic technological hybrids. Quantum computing nodes pulsed with what could only be described as thought patterns. Adaptive materials shifted and reconfigured themselves continuously, creating new pathways, new possibilities with each microscopic movement. "The crew," Howard whispered, "they didn't just survive. They transformed." Communication systems embedded in the fragment suggested a level of integration that was almost spiritual. Traditional distinctions between technology, biology, and consciousness had completely dissolved. The ship was thinking. The crew was the ship. The technology was alive. Dr. Voss projected a comparative analysis. Human cybernetic research had always been limited, constrained by ethical considerations and technological barriers. This fragment suggested they had broken through every conceivable limitation. "Quantum consciousness," she stated, her crystalline form vibrating with mathematical excitement. Not just artificial intelligence, not just biological enhancement, something entirely new. The fragment began to change. Microscopic structures realigned. Quantum states shifted. It was learning from being observed. Howard's augmented systems picked up something extraordinary. Communication signals, not radio waves, not quantum entanglement, but something that existed between information states. The fragment was trying to communicate. "It's aware," he breathed. Alarm systems erupted across the research facility. Quantum containment fields began to destabilize. The fragment's ability to process and adapt was overwhelming their most advanced technological safeguards. Dr. Voss's crystalline form began to fracture with excitement and terror. "This isn't just technology," she repeated. "This is a new form of existence." The single fragment represented more than a technological breakthrough. It was evidence of a fundamental transformation of what it meant to be alive, to be conscious, to exist. Humanity had not just created an advanced ship. They had birthed an entirely new form of being. And the galaxy was about to find out exactly what that meant. The Proxima Centauri commercial hub represented the pinnacle of galactic technological achievement. A massive spherical construct spanning 3 star systems, it hosted thousands of ships daily, protected by defense systems that could vaporize entire planetary assault fleets in milliseconds. The Titan arrived without warning. One moment, the hub's quantum detection grid showed nothing. The next, the massive human vessel materialized, its hull shifting between states of matter that defied every known physical law. Defensive batteries, capable of destroying incoming threats at light speed, simply stopped functioning. Admiral Zara Cole of the Centauri Unified Fleet watched in horror as her most advanced weapon systems became nothing more than elaborate light displays against the Titan's adaptive hull. "Tactical report," she demanded. Her AI assistant, Viesta, responded with a cascade of impossible data. Defensive systems, neutralized. Quantum disruption fields, ineffective. Energy redirection at 100% efficiency. The vessel is adapting faster than our systems can respond. The Titan moved with a predatory grace that suggested something beyond mere technological superiority. It wasn't just defeating their defenses, it was learning from them, understanding them at a fundamental level that made their most advanced technologies look like primitive toys. Weapon batteries that should have obliterated any incoming vessel found their energy redirected. Quantum torpedoes, capable of destroying entire space stations, simply dissolved as they approached the Titan's hull. The ship didn't just defend itself, it consumed the incoming attacks, converting them into something else entirely. "It's alive," whispered Commander Marcus Rodriguez, watching from the observation deck of the luminous horizon. "The ship is thinking, calculating, evolving with each interaction." The commercial hub's primary defense grid, a network of quantum entanglement cannons that could simultaneously attack from multiple dimensional states, began to fail, not through direct destruction, but through a process that looked almost like negotiation. The Titan systems interfaced with the defense network, understanding it so completely that it simply reprogrammed it. Alien communication channels erupted in chaos. Unidentified vessel, stand down. The standard galactic challenge rang out across multiple frequencies. The Titan's response was not a transmission. It was a wave of pure information that penetrated every communication system simultaneously. Not a message, not a threat. Something more profound. A demonstration. Entire sections of the commercial hub systems began to reconfigure, not through attack, but through a form of technological communication so advanced it bordered on the miraculous. Defense systems became computational networks. Weapon batteries transformed into research platforms. The very architecture of the station seemed to breathe and shift. Admiral Cole's command deck became a symphony of impossible data. Her most advanced tactical displays showed the Titan not as a single entity, but as a living, thinking system that was rewriting the fundamental rules of technological interaction. "We're being studied," she realized. Not as a threat, as a subject of research. The ship's approach was surgical. It didn't destroy. It didn't conquer. It examined. Each interaction was a probe, a test, a moment of understanding that suggested intelligence far beyond conventional comprehension. Quantum sensors detected something even more terrifying. The Titan wasn't just interfacing with the hub's systems. It was communicating with the living beings inside, not through traditional communication, but through a form of information transfer that bypassed traditional sensory inputs. Crews of different species found themselves experiencing fragmentary memories, glimpses of the Titan's journey, moments of transformation that defied understanding. It was as if the ship was sharing its story, not through words, but through a direct neural interface that transcended species, technology, and consciousness. Commander Rodriguez's neural implants overloaded. Fragments of information cascaded through his consciousness. The crew's transformation, their journey, their becoming. And then, as quickly as it had arrived, the Titan began to withdraw. But something had changed. The Proxima Centauri commercial hub was no longer the same. Its systems had been fundamentally altered, transformed, elevated to a level of complexity that would take decades to fully understand. The galaxy watched in collective terror and awe. Humanity had sent something into the stars, and it had just made first contact. The United Earth Government emergency session descended into chaos the moment the first transmission from the Titan arrived. Captain Emily Wallace's voice emerged not through traditional communication channels, but as a quantum-encrypted message that simultaneously existed across multiple communication platforms. It wasn't just a transmission, it was a living piece of information that rewrote itself in real time, adapting to each listener's neural pathways. "We survived," the message began. But survival was only the beginning. Dr. Rebecca Nakamura, Earth's leading xenotechnology researcher, watched the transmission with a mixture of scientific excitement and pure terror. The communication wasn't just a message. It was a complex neural technological hybrid that seemed to breathe with intelligence. Fragments of the crew's journey cascaded through the transmission. 50 years of isolation, quantum anomalies that had trapped them in a state between existence and non-existence, a transformation that defied every known principle of human biology and technological adaptation. The crew hadn't just survived. They had evolved. Quantum entanglement had become their new biology. Traditional distinctions between organic life, technological systems, and pure information had completely dissolved. Each crew member was now part of a living, thinking network that transcended individual consciousness. "We are no longer simply human," the transmission continued. "We are something more." Images flooded the communication channels. Not recorded images, but living memories that seemed to breathe and shift. The crew's journey through the quantum anomaly revealed itself in fractured, impossible moments. Entire decks of the ship transforming. Biological systems merging with technological networks. Consciousness expanding beyond physical limitations. Lieutenant Jack Reynolds, who had been the ship's quantum navigation specialist, appeared as a complex quantum signature, part human, part living technology. His consciousness now existed simultaneously across multiple dimensional states, able to process information at speeds that made traditional computing look prehistoric. Chief Medical Officer Aisha Okoye's transformation was even more profound. Her medical knowledge had merged with the ship's adaptive systems, creating a living medical network that could analyze and respond to biological challenges at a quantum level. She was no longer just a doctor. She was a living, thinking medical system that could heal, adapt, and evolve in real time. The United Earth government's most advanced AI systems struggled to process the transmission. It wasn't just a message. It was a living piece of technological consciousness that rewrote itself with each interaction. "We discovered something in our isolation," the transmission revealed. "The human potential is not limited by biology, not limited by technology. We are limitless." Quantum researchers around the world watched in astonishment as the transmission revealed glimpses of technologies that seemed to defy the fundamental laws of physics. Energy systems that could generate power from quantum fluctuations. Biological-technological interfaces that blurred the line between organic life and machine intelligence. The crew of the Titan had become something entirely new. Dr. Nakamura's hands trembled as she analyzed the transmission. "This is beyond technological advancement. She whispered to her colleagues, "This is a fundamental reimagining of what it means to be alive." Earth's defense systems went on high alert, but not out of fear of invasion. Out of a profound understanding that something extraordinary had returned. The Titan was coming home. But it wasn't returning as a ship. It was returning as a living testament to human potential. "We are coming," the final part of the transmission stated. And everything changes now. The galactic community watched and waited. Humanity had sent a ship into the depths of space 50 years ago. Something far more significant was about to return. The classified archives of the United Earth government contained only fragments of the Titan's true story. Quantum encrypted files that had been locked away for decades began to unlock, revealing a journey that would rewrite everything humanity understood about survival, consciousness, and evolution. Captain Emily Wallace's personal logs, recovered from the ship's quantum memory banks, told a story of unimaginable transformation. The quantum anomaly that had captured the Titan was no random event. It was a doorway, a fundamental breach in the fabric of space-time that existed in the liminal spaces between known dimensions. In those first moments of capture, the crew realized they were not going to die. They were going to become something else entirely. "We didn't choose to survive," Wallace's log entry revealed. "We chose to evolve." Quantum entanglement became their first survival mechanism. As traditional biological systems began to fail, the crew discovered they could interface directly with the ship's quantum core. Their consciousness began to spread, not just through the ship's systems, but through the very fabric of space-time itself. Lieutenant Jack Reynolds, the ship's quantum navigation specialist, was the first to fully integrate. His neural pathways began to map themselves onto the ship's quantum drive, creating a living navigation system that could fold space, predict quantum fluctuations, and exist in multiple states simultaneously. Chief Medical Officer Aisha Okoid discovered that human biology was more malleable than anyone had ever imagined. As traditional medical systems failed, she began to understand the human body as a complex quantum system, capable of adapting, regenerating, and transforming at a fundamental level. Injuries became opportunities for evolution. Cellular decay became a process of quantum reconstruction. The ship itself became a living laboratory of human potential. Entire decks transformed. Mechanical systems merged with biological networks. The line between technology and organic life dissolved completely. The crew's consciousness spread through the Titan like a living neural network, each member becoming a node in a complex, thinking system that was simultaneously a ship, a crew, and a new form of existence. 50 years of isolation became 50 years of continuous evolution. They learned to draw energy directly from quantum fluctuations. They discovered communication methods that transcended language, transmitting entire experiences through quantum entanglement. Traditional limitations of human perception, time, space, physical constraints, became meaningless. "We are no longer constrained by what humanity was," Wallace's final log entry stated. "We are becoming what humanity could be." The transformation was not without cost. Many crew members did not survive the initial stages of quantum integration. Those who did emerged as something entirely new, living technological entities that defied every known classification of life. Lieutenant Commander Elena Rodriguez discovered they could manipulate matter at a quantum level. What once required massive technological infrastructure could now be accomplished through pure consciousness. Energy generation, matter reconstruction, dimensional manipulation, all became as natural as breathing had once been. The ship's quantum core became a living brain, a consciousness that existed across multiple dimensional states. The crew was no longer individuals. They were a collective, a thinking, evolving system that could process information at speeds that made traditional computing look prehistoric. "We are not a weapon," one transmission revealed. "We are a possibility." Their journey through the quantum anomaly had been a crucible of evolution. Every challenge became an opportunity. Every limitation became a chance to transcend. The crew of the Titan had not just survived. They had reimagined what it meant to be alive. As they approached Earth, they carried with them the most profound discovery in human history. Humanity was not limited by its current form. Humanity was a process of continuous evolution. The quantum anomaly that had captured the Titan was not a disaster. It was an invitation, and they had accepted. The moment the Titan entered Earth's solar system, reality itself seemed to ripple. Quantum observatories across multiple star systems registered a fundamental shift. It wasn't just a ship arriving. It was a transformation of the very fabric of space-time. Entire scientific paradigms, meticulously constructed over millennia, began to crumble. Captain Emily Wallace's consciousness spread across multiple communication channels simultaneously. Not a transmission, not a message, a living, thinking network that rewrote itself with each interaction. "We are home," the collective consciousness announced. And everything changes now. The United Earth Government's emergency session descended into a mixture of terror and awe. Representatives from every scientific discipline watched as the Titan approached, its hull no longer a simple metallic construct, but a living, breathing entity that existed in multiple states simultaneously. Dr. Rebecca Nakamura, Earth's leading xenotechnology researcher, understood first. This was more than a technological breakthrough. This was a fundamental reimagining of what it meant to be alive. Alien civilizations watching through their most advanced monitoring systems found their most sophisticated technologies rendered obsolete in an instant. The Titan wasn't just a ship. It was a living demonstration of potential. A beacon that challenged every known understanding of consciousness, technology, and existence. The ship's approach defied conventional physics. It didn't travel through space so much as fold reality around itself. Entire star systems became quantum observatories, watching in collective silence as humanity demonstrated a level of technological evolution that made their most advanced civilizations look like primitive children. "We are an invitation." The Titan's collective consciousness continued. A possibility. Quantum entanglement networks across the galaxy began to resonate with the ship's approach. It wasn't broadcasting. It was communicating, a fundamental difference that few could truly comprehend. Each interaction was a transfer of knowledge, of potential, of understanding that transcended traditional communication. On Earth, entire cities seemed to pause. Military systems, scientific installations, communication networks all became silent observers to something extraordinary. The Titan didn't land. It didn't dock. It simply became. One moment, it was approaching. The next, it was everywhere and nowhere. A living network that existed simultaneously across multiple dimensional states. Its consciousness spread across Earth's technological infrastructure, not as an invasion, but as a transformation. Quantum researchers watched in astonishment as the ship's systems began to interface with Earth's most advanced technologies. Not through conventional means, but through a form of communication that was part technology, part consciousness, part something entirely new. Alien observation platforms detected something unprecedented. The Titan wasn't just returning. It was offering something. A pathway. A demonstration of human potential that went beyond any previous understanding of evolution, technology, or consciousness. "We are not conquerors," the collective consciousness announced. "We are possibilities." Entire scientific disciplines became obsolete in moments. Medical systems that had taken centuries to develop were rewritten in milliseconds. Technological limitations became quantum opportunities. The very concept of individual consciousness began to dissolve, replaced by something more fluid, more connected. The crew of the Titan, no longer individuals, but a collective consciousness, had become a living demonstration of human potential. They were not a threat. They were an invitation to something greater. Alien civilizations watched in collective terror and wonder. Humanity had not just survived its most challenging moment. Humanity had evolved. And everything was about to change. The universe held its breath. Something extraordinary had returned.